Isn't it funny? I remember the first time I hit $1 million and I was like,
We ended up finishing 2020 at $2 million.
If you're doing business by yourself, you're not really going to level up.
I didn't want to work for somebody. I'd had a couple jobs prior.
good salespeople, man, they're the drivers of a business sometimes.
The largest strategy is probably spending more money than you should spend on marketing.
The chain that's going to impact the customers the most is
You're not going to get a key good employee if you're just some Joe Schmo contractor.
I get a scarcity mindset when it comes to,
You have to differentiate for the employee first, educate the customer.
I actually welcome bandwagoners. If you want to be a winner, come to the winning side.
You need to get away from being the technician doing the work and learning the business.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
before we get started, listen, all of our listeners out there, all 6 of you, I need to make a public service announcement. Football season is upon us, and you may know Dillon is a nice, fun-loving guy, but he is one of those arrogant Kansas City Chief fans. And I am so sick about hearing about the damn Kansas City Chiefs. So, Dillon, you need to put yourself in check for the next few weeks. Can you do that for us?
Hey, I think the preseason games have put the Chiefs in check a little bit. They're not worth anything, but now as we record this, we're a couple games into the preseason, and the Chiefs have been worthless. But hey, we're going for the three-peat, you know? And all I hear is jealousy when you bring up the Chiefs. Like, you wish. Who's your team again, Will? Do you want to share with the crowd?
Well, they're about to get regulated like soccer. My lonesome Carolina Panthers. I have been a fan of them since they started their franchise back when I was in 5th grade. And it's rough. It's every year, it just keeps getting worse and worse. But you know what? I'm not sharing that misery amongst anybody else. I'm not trying to push that off like your arrogance around Kansas City Chief.
Hey,
Jeez.
I actually welcome bandwagoners. I think, the more the merrier. If you want to be a winner, come to the winning side. You can don the red jersey just anytime. Ready for you.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, anyway, I hope your boy gets injured this year. So, yeah, I know. I just lost 2 of our 6 listeners,
That's right, yeah.
unfortunately, because
They were also Chiefs fans.
your dad's one of the listeners, and he's
That's
a fan
right,
too.
yeah.
Hey. Well, hey, before we get to our guest today, we're approaching that time of year for all you. We make the joke about a few listeners, but we get to hear from you guys all over the country, which is really cool. We've gotten to know many of you as friends, and several of you have been asking about doing company quarterly financial reviews. So coming up in October, we're prepping for this. So if you're a contractor out there and you want to compare notes with your profit and loss, we're going to compile that information into a few financial reviews so we can share that knowledge. My company will be involved. We'll probably break people up into segments. Like if you're a fencing and landscaping contractor, probably won't be helpful to compare notes with a foundation repair company or an electrical company, but we're going to pair a few of you guys up. We're going to go over the income statements, touch a little bit on balance sheets, a little bit of statement of cash flows, year-over-year comparisons, because we've had a lot of folks saying, hey, I'm slowing down, but others saying that they're speeding up, and then just kind of budget to actuals and some performance highlights. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link in the show notes. That'd be so much fun. We have fun with this with other folks around the country every year, where we come around after a few quarters and we compare notes. So Dillon, you sent me the link for that for the notes, right?
Yeah, we'll get it in the notes. And if you've listened to this podcast more than a couple episodes, one thing that you've probably heard us harp on over and over again is that if you're doing business by yourself with no one else helping you, you're not really going to level up. And every really successful contractor we've had on here has said over and over again, I sought help here, I networked there. And that's what we want to do with this group. So if you're interested, click on the link, fill out the form, and we'll get in contact with you and get you in the group.
Yeah, I'm excited. I always learn something out of that too and realize, oh, wow, I'm way off budget compared to everybody else on a certain line item, including like my Carolina Panthers, obviously. So we're way off on certain line items there. Yeah.
I'm just curious before we go forward, Will, give me like, if there was one line item that you just inherently it will always spend more money on, what is it? You're always
marketing.
overspending on this. Marketing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm typically a little biased to marketing. I hate to ever run out of leads, and I get a scarcity mindset when it comes to lead flow. Maybe another one would probably be meals and entertainment, obviously, with our little podcast here. What I'm spending on, hey, what are these charges at the on-cue gas station for? That's Beers with Contractor stuff. Just put it under meals and entertainment. So
very important. Not even meals and entertainment. This is a capital asset right here. We're going to grow the company with this podcast. So,
well, I like to share my failures here. One thing that I'm overspending on right now is insurance because, Dillon, you probably recall how many they weren't all our fault, but how many car accidents did we have last year?
I mean, I don't.
This is
More
so
than a
embarrassing.
handful.
We had 9, didn't we?
Okay, I was gonna guess 6 or 7. So
It was a train wreck. We probably hit a train too, for crying out loud. Who knows? I mean, but yeah, we are way overpaid because, by the way, most of those were not our fault. But of course, the insurance company is going to look at it like, hey, you probably are just bad drivers over there. So we're just going to rank that insurance up. So I
think
am overpaying on that.
the worst one of the group, before we go on, the worst one of the group was when we thought that we could drive a box truck through a drive-through, and it's just like, come on now, just get out of the car, go into Taco Bell, get your stuff, come back out.
It was a Wendy's, unfortunately, and it was during
Wendy's.
COVID, so that the dining room wasn't open, and the guys loved. You know who this guy is? He's a great foreman of ours.
Great guy.
He was so nice. He was like, we tried to walk through the not the crawl space. We tried to walk through the drive-through, but then they wouldn't answer, and I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, so yes, we paid to repair a Wendy's. That was back in 2020. So yeah, so that's our show, everybody. Thanks, Dylan, for bringing up all the misery. We'll see you next week. Anyways, hey, listen, I'm pumped about this. I know he's been on our list for a while, and I finally reached out to get him on the show. Somebody I've known for a long time. Today, we're joined by Zach Zaras, the president and owner of Level Concrete, a concrete repair expert who's grown his company to a staggering $10 million in revenue a year. Zach's leadership has earned Level Concrete 2 spots in the Inc. 5000 list. He's led 100% growth in 3 different years, making them the top choice for concrete and foundation repair in Houston, which, Dylan, we've spoken about this. Such a competitive market, insane market down there. And to be able to come up in a market like that with such success shows great leadership. He's also passionate about helping fellow contractors through his ventures. I'm super pumped to learn a little bit more about this concrete rocket and a better client. So, Zach, welcome, buddy. Finally got you on to Beers with Contractors. How you doing?
Oh, doing well. Thanks for having me.
We always dive in a little bit. So obviously you didn't come out of the womb saying, yeah, I'm going to run a concrete company. So how the hell did you get here, and what law did you break or bet did you lose?
I guess I could spend the whole hour talking about this, but I the overall background, I got out of the high school, went to the Army, did about 5 years over there, a couple tours in Iraq, and, got back, 6 months left in my duty, in the Army. I met my wife. We weren't married at the time. We got married afterwards. And he said, hey, I'm going to settle down and get out. And, we bought a house together in 2015. And, the driveway was down, I don't know, 2 inches or so. And, like anybody, nobody thinks about it. The home inspector didn't notice it. No one noticed it. And one 4th of July, my nephew, I think he was 2 at the time, tripped a ton of times. And you try telling a 2-year-old to pick their feet up. I know you got kids. They don't listen. I didn't know that at the time. I have my own kids now, and I do know that. But, they don't listen. So I was like, I got to do some research. Neighbor down the road replaced a panel. I hated the way it looked. It looked like a checkerboard. And, I ended up finding the HMI out of Wisconsin. And they were like, we'll teach you how to do this work and sell you the equipment before I ever found someone to do the work.
Huh.
Which is interesting. So I'm like, Houston's massive market, concrete everywhere. There's so much opportunity. And then I found out nobody just knows how to market it. A lot of people did it. They just don't know how to market it to people. And so I went out on a limb. I didn't want to work for somebody. I'd had a couple jobs prior, some sales jobs. So I knew a lot about sales and decided I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Took $30,000 in personal debt out on a signature loan and bought some equipment and started a business.
Yeah.
And it's been a wild, wide ride since.
That's crazy. And that was back in 2016, right?
Yeah. So 16. So I bought the house in 15. The kids started tripping, I guess, 15 or 16. But around the end of 16 is when I bought the equipment. I'll know I started the business 2 months after my first kid was born. So anybody who's married with kids, tell your wife you want to start a new company 2 months after they're born. It doesn't go over very well, but it worked. She
can't wait to see that advice come out in the book.
Right.
Chapter 1, don't start a business right after your wife had a baby.
Oh yeah. She was, 3 months in, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I was struggling. She's like, you committed. You spent all this money. You're doing it. She's like, you're not stopping. So, she didn't let me give up.
That's great. Yeah, I saw this video online the other day that it was like a flooding street, and there were people standing on the sidewalk on both sides, wanting to get across, and this guy had made like basically a cart on wheels, and he was charging them $1 to just carry them across the flooding water. And I saw that, and I'm hearing your story, and I'm like, yeah, it's just like find the market need.
Oh yeah.
People just want to get across the street. People don't want to be tripping on their concrete, and you go fill that need, and boom, you got a business.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope we got it right in the bio. Are you guys doing about 10 million in revenue a year? And is that accurate?
Hey, contractors, it's Will. Listen, are you ready to take your business to the next level? I want to introduce everybody to ShipShape AI. It's an AI-powered home monitoring system that keeps your customers' homes running smoothly and gives you the edge over the competition. Imagine being the hero who spots an issue before it turns into a disaster, like a flooded basement or a busted HVAC system. ShipShape's smart sensor alerts you to the problems before they happen so you can swoop in with the solution for your customers. But it's not just about saving the day. ShipShape helps you tap into past customers with tailored marketing campaigns, turning one-time jobs into long-term relationships. Plus, you can grow your maintenance plans and get more follow-up on projects, all while offering your customers a peace of mind that they crave. And the best part, ShipShape's Pro Monitoring service handles the tech support, so you can focus on what you do best, building and maintaining and repairing homes. So in the market where the competition is fierce, now is the time to secure your customers and protect this premium pricing. Learn more at shipshape.ai or click the link in the episode description here. That's shipshape.ai. Or you can even call our friends at ShipShape at 205-207-5775. ShipShape, where smart homes meet smart contractors.
Yep. Actually, some exciting little news here, but we were doing about 7.5, and we just recently did a partnership merger acquisition with a local company here in town that's doing about 2.5 to 3 million in revenue. So that'll bump us up to 3 and really gives us our foot in the door with foundation. So it's our first little acquisition we're doing and continuing to grow from here.
Super cool. Awesome. Congrats. So big journey. I mean, you've been at this coming up on 8-9 years, and with that acquisition, a lot of hurdles along the way, I'm sure. What was one of those really challenging moments along the journey? So you talked about 3 months. I bet there was another wall or ceiling that you hit. What was that wall, and how did you overcome it?
I think it's like anybody with growth and scale, is the biggest wall was processes, getting people to do the right thing every single time. I can only be so many places at once. As you grow, you have to do, you either do everything or you hire the people to do it. And, you hire the wrong people, don't have the right process. Next thing you know, you're 5 steps back, and so that was the biggest hurdle, was getting people on board. We hit that in probably 2018-19 timeframe. We really kind of stagnated. It was our first stagnant time. We got to right about 1 million in sales, and we stayed 2 years at 1 million. I was in over my head at that point in time. I also never thought I'd get much bigger than that at the time too. So, where we are now is uncharted territory on my end.
Isn't it funny? I remember the first time I hit 1 million and I was like, man, how could we be even any bigger? We're huge. And then you find out through other parts of the country, it's like there's companies that are just dwarfing that. And,
Yep.
But yeah, so actually this is a good segue, because when you hit that plateau, Zach, and then started to scale back again, I know that there was probably an installment of quite a bit of leaders that you had to bring in to try to start filling in some of those gaps. What did that process look like? What were the key hires that you made first to get you dislodged? Because this is a big question a lot of our listeners ask, is what is the first key hire I need to do to get me to the next level?
You've taken a word out of, I guess, Tommy Mello back earlier on. He talks about hire for your weaknesses. And one of my biggest weaknesses, I don't like sales reps. I know I've done it. I don't like them. I don't like driving them. They're all prima donnas at the end of the day. So I had to hire a sales manager. I'll also say at the right time, hire the right person. I hired the wrong people. You grab somebody who thinks going to be good. They don't know what they're doing. And it, sets you back a couple steps. And I did that years and years in a row. I kept doing that. And finally the point now where it's, I'm hiring the right people, but you try to hire the wrong person because they're cheaper and you don't want to pay for it. And it just doesn't help you out in the long run. But I hired sales first. I can handle production. I'm operations driven myself.
So, I mean, do you coin that from your military bias or background? Why do you feel like you're more operationally biased and you gravitate towards that way, Zach?
I grew up more of a technical mindset. I'm not real bad at sales. Like I can go outsell a lot of people pretty quickly. I just don't enjoy I guess people that cry about things all the time. I guess I look at the military. I mean, you didn't have a lot of room to go and be a little whine ass in the military. I mean, you had to get your shit done. So I mean, I guess look at it that way. I mean, they're the hardest group to manage. You make sure you see it in your business. They're the hardest group to manage.
Yeah, it is so funny because I just came from a sales training with a bunch of new hires, and I love to train them. It's kind of like what I imagine when I become a grandparent. I can play with the grandkids, but then it's like, you take them because I'll train them, but I don't want to manage them, man. I just like,
Nope.
it's dealing with the roller coaster of emotions. And, but I will say this, like good salespeople, man, they're the drivers of a business sometimes. That's what helps you scale. But I find this with a lot of business owners that operational mindsets, I think, outlast sales mindsets in most companies, not all, but for like the companies that are staples in the community, been in business 30 years, things like that. I mean, I see that trend or that pattern that operationally minded individuals really are the ones that picked up that and started it. So kudos to you for that. Mind you, to bring this back to the sales manager, is that sales manager still with you?
Actually, he's a sales rep. He went right back to being a sales rep, and he's been here, a little over 5 years now, and he's happy. I mean, he's consistent. He's a steady Yeti, as we call him. He's not going to blow the doors off every single month, but you can rely on him to sell $100,000 a month.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And how many sales reps you guys have down there right now?
8, 9.
Wow, that's massive growth in the last several years, man. That's awesome.
We've fluctuated up and down, and I used to be a part of the Sportworks network back in the day, and they talk about, limiting how many leads they get. And we've kind of shifted some things around. So we're, giving them a little higher workload, requiring a bit more out of them so we can have less reps do more. So
that's a great segue, Zach. One thing I've gotten to know from you over the last several years is some people move in a certain direction in our industry of concrete and foundation repair. And then all of a sudden you look over and somehow Zach took a 90-degree turn like 3 months ago and is going in a totally different direction. And by the way, I respect you for that. One thing that you told me years ago, well, actually probably last year, was rather than sending sales reps, it's like, hey, if it's a small job, why don't we send just a foreman out there in a Sprinter van and go ahead and fix it? And I was like, damn, that's genius. So, I think that's a differentiator for you in your market because you think outside the box in that way to not put everything into a certain SOP or label. But what are some of the other unique things that you've seen that go against the grain for like market norms are in our business?
Being that we're mainly concrete repair and not foundation repair, foundation repair average tickets are much higher. It makes more sense to, have a sales rep go out, send a crew from a long distance away, and just the overall, profitability of a job is different. Whereas with poly concrete repair, you're doing multiple jobs in a day. And so we've looked at different ways of saying, how can we be more efficient, whether it be satellite locations, even in like the city of Houston, we're looking at putting 7 to 10 locations throughout the greater Houston area. And having these trucks drive no more than 30 minutes, like an Amazon distribution type. And we spend less windshield time, more time pumping foam, more time on the job site and be more efficient, but also create branches essentially, which creates some competitiveness, little small teams, but they're all in the local market.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Just changing things a little bit. Foundation will still be driven out of one main core office for now. Houston is such a large market. I don't go to Oklahoma often, but I'd venture to say one side of Houston to the other side is probably like driving from Oklahoma City to Tulsa.
You guys have, I think, 30% more people in Houston than I have in my entire state of Oklahoma. Yeah. So, hey, but you know what?
Last I saw was like 8 million.
Hey, I like it when my only traffic jam is a tractor. So you enjoy it down there, Zach.
That's true. I drive 45 minutes to the office and drive 40, and that's 35 miles. And I drive 45 minutes to go 10 miles when I go further into the city.
Yeah.
So I try to stay on my side of the city that often. I don't go down the other side very often.
Yeah. That's super cool. So in terms of the growth you've had, Zach, if you were honest, and I think a lot of contractors are really honest, there's some years where they just have to admit, like, there's some sheer luck. Like, I just got lucky this year. I was blessed to that this thing happened or that thing happened. I know COVID was one really big one, but there's also mindsets, strategies that make people continue to be successful. And so, you've achieved 100% growth in 3 different years. That's not a small feat. What do you contribute that to? Like what mindset or what strategies get you there?
I guess the largest strategy is probably spending more money than you should spend on marketing. As Will said earlier, you spend a lot of money on marketing. COVID was obviously the number one thing that pushed us. Growing early on, when you go from 0 to 300,000 to 900,000, that's, in my mind, that's easy. That's just understanding a business and getting a business going. It's from going 1 million to 2 to 4 to, 6 to 8, it's growing at that point. And once we got past that $1 million mark, 2020 was shaping up to be another $1 million year. We're 6 months into the year, $650,000 in revenue. COVID's, full blown going at that time. And I brought in a better sales manager. This guy had some experience at that point in time. He's no longer with the company, but brought him in, and we instantly changed the mindset in the sales of, instead of aiming for just a quick sale, try to sell more, selling those 2 parts to 3 parts, the stabilization, everything else that goes in with it, and raising average tickets and ADLs up. And just changing that mindset, going from a $500 ADL, I know you guys know what that is, and going up to a $1,500, I mean, you triple your sales without changing leads. That was an instant hit there. And we ended up finishing 2020 at $2 million. So the last 6 months of the year, we did a whole nother $1 million. And it was crazy to think that we could do that. And we had the assets for it. We just weren't efficient either. So changing the mindset of doing more with the same amount of leads, offering more, offering options, and just the more you compound that, if you can go $1 million in 6 months, you can add more onto there. And so we were able to go basically 2 to 4.5 million the next year.
Wow. That's on fire.
Once you had a good sales leader, it came in there, in production, at that point in time, production was a weak link, and now production's my strong point and sales is my weak link, it's a damn pendulum.
Well, so we had Chad McCleary from Jolly Go Garage Doors on a few episodes ago, and I know you met Jeff there.
Yep.
And I can already tell from the language that you're a big service Titan guy, or you're using it very well because you're rattling off KPIs. So I've got this theory. How many screens do you have around your computer, Zach? Because every time I meet somebody with Service Titan, there's like 9 monitors around the computer. Oh, look, he's starting to look around. Dylan, look.
I have one 49-inch monitor.
Oh, wow.
Years ago, I used to have a MacBook Air, and it only allows 1 monitor. I now have a MacBook Pro, but I just bought one big ass monitor, and so I can have 3 or 4 or 5 different screens open at a time. But my desktop is a disaster. I probably have 10,000 icons on my desktop. I mean, I'm not at all organized.
You're the guy that leaves all the tabs open just constantly?
Absolutely. There's at least 100 of them open.
That's why you and Dylan get along so well.
That's a man I can get on for sure, yeah.
By the way, all joking aside, you've really dialed in, like, understanding KPIs. And by the way, I think that's a differentiator. But in such a crowded market, when trying to recruit people to come in and then also trying to sell different in your market, what have been some of those differentiating factors that you've tried to dial in? I know branding has been a big part of it in your market. But what are some of those key points that I think could benefit a listener out there that is probably in a similar situation where they need to differentiate themselves for employees and customers?
I sit back and believe you have to differentiate for the employee first. You're not going to get a good employee if you're just some Joe Schmo contractor. And if you can't get a good employee to come in, especially a good sales rep that really believes in the company, they're not going to go out and sell the product or service well. So we've done a lot. And that's, the Inc. 5000, it's a great award, but it's more or less an internal award for us to show if you were to come on as an employee, now there's more chances this is a career and not just some job to get you through to next week.
Yeah.
And so we've done a lot to grow the culture internally. The brand helps out with that as well, which then leads into external facing, a differentiator with the consumer. But I think the largest differentiator, and this is what things Sportworks talks about, is actually go out and teach the consumer what they're having issues with. Every other contractor says, oh yeah, I can just lift your concrete up. It's $1,500, walk away. You just educate the customer. It's a bigger differentiator. Now, we have a lot more competitors now that are doing the same thing we are for obvious reason. It works. And so, our differentiator now is we're just a stronger, larger brand. And, we still do things above and beyond a little bit better. We communicate better. We have an office staff that can actually deal with customers. And so, yeah, we educate you, but from the time you pick up the phone or submit your inquiry online or schedule your appointment online, you're going to get a completely different interaction with us than you will with anybody else.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm glad you started with talking about the employees and kind of redefining what it's like for employees first, because I'm a big believer that, the chain that's going to impact the customers the most is starts with what happens with an employee experience. And then that employee experience will eventually trickle down to what the customer sees and feels and experiences about your company and your brand. But I also know as you grow, it's hard to hold on to some of those key figures and hold on to, the loyalty of employees that you want to continue to grow with you. So you mentioned like the Inc. 5000, which I think can help bring in new employees. Like it draws interest. It says, hey, I have an award that shows I'm an established company that's worth your time to consider. But what do you do once that person has become an employee to keep them there, especially in a competitive market?
I mean, short of overpaying them, that's their biggest one. If you don't want to leave, just pay them too much. They won't go anywhere if they can't make more. Typically. I mean, but, at the end of the day, we got to treat people right. You give them some recognition, you pay them well, give them that good benefits package, the overall things employees look for, but give them a purpose to be here as well. They want to see what success is, not only with themselves, they want to see customers win, they want to see other employees win, they want to see themselves win. And they tend to stay around, and take feedback. If multiple employees come up and tell you this one person or manager is toxic, you have to kind of believe them to an extent. But if one person comes and tells you that and everybody else says they're great, then you got a crying wolf. But, I've had that in the past where, that first sales manager I had, half his team came down, took me to lunch one day, and she basically laid out all the problems. And it's like, he was a great sales manager, don't get me wrong, but he was not a great manager of people. And unfortunately, I had to make the decision to get rid of him from the company. And you look at that, and you're like, man, I'm getting rid of this guy that's turned us around and brought us this far. And that speaks leaps and bounds for your other high performing employees you want to keep, that you're not going to keep dead weight or toxic people there. You get rid of the dead weight, get rid of the toxic people, and your key employees stay, and they're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it is wild how that pendulum swings, where it's like we want to be a people first company, but then, man, we got to hold them accountable and we got to make decisions.
Yeah.
But then it's a paradigm shift. And finally you realize, oh, we are a people first company because we are holding people accountable and making those changes. And it's kind of like, it took me freaking years to figure that out. And I swung to over accountability, to coddling, to finally, well, actually Sydney runs the company, so she's better at that than I am.
Right. It's her problem now.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, when I asked you to be on the show, Zach, I did not know about some of these other ventures, but before we got on the day, you gave me a preview, and I am excited to share one of these products with everybody that's listening, because I think it's something we've always toyed around that we wish we had. But let's segue into Concrete Rocket and A Better Client, those two separate products. What the hell are those, and break those down for us?
Yeah, so a Concrete Rocket I started a little over a year ago, and it's really just a consulting company on the back end, something to run consulting through. I've had a number of other contractors, either brand new to the industry or people that have been in the industry. They've flown down to Houston. They've spent time with us, learn kind of how we operate. I think 3 or 4 companies now have been down here, and just to see what things we're doing and how they can implement. And I've seen, one up in South Carolina, implemented like crazy. He's a year into business and already has a second rig.
Wow. That's
growing
cool.
like crazy, and now granted they come from businesses. They have other businesses. They're not a first time running a business. So there's some knowledge behind there, but they took the knowledge and they are executing on it and seeing great success. They're working with our marketing partners and basically taking our marketing and putting it in that market, and it's working great. We've had a couple other ones, and he's in the middle of the country somewhere, South Dakota, maybe,
Don't say
I don't know,
Oklahoma.
somewhere in the middle of the country. No, he's up north. He's growing too, and he took the good advice. He has a spray foam company with a not a strong brand. It's really commercial driven. It's like, hey, you need to make this its own company, its own brand, and go out and do it. And so taking that and making a consulting type business, I plan to do more with that in the future, but it's kind of on the back burner right now with this acquisition we're in, and really in the running and gunning phase. I've gotten rid of some other key leaders in this company, and I'm pretty involved now in this company. I don't really have my wife to run it for me. She wants nothing to do with it. So
It's
But
like
yeah.
that scene from The Godfather. I get out
Right.
and they pull me right back in, right?
Oh
They,
yeah, it's absolutely.
well,
And so
hey,
a better,
kudos to you for
yeah,
helping, though. I mean, to know that you've reached out and helped somebody like in South Carolina. In our business, most people don't get past
those
one
again.
trailer rig at all. And did that come through, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
You
most
just froze.
Dylan, just ignore the freezing.
You
Hey,
asked. You asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, kudos to you for that, because you had know in most of our business, like people never even get past one piece of equipment or rig. So
Yeah.
congrats there. But now the big one, a better client. I got to hear about this. This is going to be awesome. I think it's so cool.
It's I incorporated it. I created a business plan, and it's on my plate to work on. So if you know any developers, computer developers, send them my way. Web developers. The biggest thing about it is, we have Angie's List, we have Home Advisor, we have Google, we have everything else under the sun for contractors, and it doesn't cost the consumer anything, and it helps the consumer make a wise decision on who they want to purchase or buy from. There's nothing for contractors or businesses alike. And quite frankly, I can't walk around asking my customers for the social security number to pull a credit check. It just doesn't work for home services or anything. And so, we've talked a lot about it. We've worked with legal to make sure what we do is legal, but finding a way that we can automate with CRMs, ERP type systems, collect customer data, and have contractors like you guys submit information when you don't recommend somebody on a star rating, and quick bullet points of why you don't recommend. Very subjective. I mean, very, literal bullet points. Like I can't go in there and say, leave me an open form comment, because contractors are typically older people at this rate, and they're not going to say some PC things. And next thing you know, you have a lawsuit on your hands. So, we're looking at things to say, how can we integrate to where, let's say Miss Sally calls in to Vesta tomorrow, and you put her in the system, and it emails you, the manager, and says, hey, Sally's a 3-star customer. You might want to look into it. It's not going to tell the better group of your employees what she is. You only want to send it to a manager or an owner and let that person make the decision, do we service or not?
Yeah.
And go from there. So
Yeah, man. And when do you have a design or a designated launch date for this, Zach? When do you feel like you'd like to get this out in the world?
I was starting to work on a little bit more this year. Now I'm stepping more back into day-to-day operations here. It's kind of getting on the back burner. I would like to see it in the next 12 to 24 months, to be honest. I have kind of a overall design of what the portal is going to look like. I got to get, and I have a structure of what the database to collect data is going to go, but it's now the programming and code to get it there, and then all the APIs to tie it in with all the CRMs out there.
I am excited about this. I will gladly be one of your first customers to beta test this. And you're very active on the social media pages.
Right.
And Facebook groups. So I know just by putting that out there in the world, it's going to become something big.
Oh, yeah. I think it absolutely could be a pretty decent thing if you can do it right and execute on it right. I think there's not to be some legal mumbo jumbo. You got to put in your contract just to say, hey, yeah, we do report your basic information off. There's some things legal's told me I have to do, but we're still in that process.
Them damn attorneys. Hey, ironically, our next guest is an attorney. So,
That's right.
so maybe actually we bring him in on this one just to dovetail in.
So there's kind of a theme between these two ventures, Zach, of, a better client to kind of educate contractors about the customers that they don't really want necessarily, but then also Concrete Rocket, where you're bringing people in and kind of advising them. So you've worked with a lot of contractors. Do you see any patterns about what big issues contractors are facing today, or what issues an upcoming contractor might face that may be a pitfall for them?
I guess if you go back in a couple of things, one of the largest things is most contractors are typically the doers. They've done the work in the past. I'll always recommend someone reads the E-Myth from Michael Gerber.
Mhm.
You know, great book on getting out there. You need to get away from being the technician doing the work and learning the business. But above and beyond that, getting into a non-standard trade. You know, it's easier to go find a plumber. It's easier to go find an HVAC tech, but I can't go find somebody who knows how to pump poly very easily. And there's not a lot of them in every market. And so you have to be able to train people to get them where they are. And I think one of the largest struggles that anybody has, especially in this market or foundation repairs, how do I train somebody to do what we do and do it right? You know, if you find somebody who knows how to do it, they're probably not going to do it the way you believe it needs to be done. And next thing you know, you have a lot of issues on your hands of shoddy work, you know? So training is a big one. If people can really go out there and find the right people, and, you know, I'll take another word out of Tommy Mello, find somebody who's got a good attitude. You got a busboy that's awesome. You got a bartender that's awesome. Like, I'll train you how to lift concrete. It's not that damn hard.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to teach you how to do it right, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of training goes into it. And then that's where you're going to win the most, is stop being a technician and find the right people to train.
It's interesting because a lot of those employees, those busboys, those waiters are somewhere out there, they just don't know what's possible. And then when you have those systems and processes built into your company for training, boy, it actually is a great recruiting tool. You know this, Zach, obviously with your growth. But also, more importantly, with your growth, you had to go through a lot of the burn and grind, obviously. It's not all rainbows and sunshine, right? But I like to err on the side of the more positive. What's been one of the most emotionally fulfilling projects or success stories you've had, either with customers or employees in the last few years, to help hopefully inspire somebody out there that can get past that grind and struggle?
You know, I guess I'll lean it more into an employee or multiple employees. I've seen a lot of employees go out and either buy houses, which if you're on the ownership side or HR side, that sucks because there's a lot of paperwork that you have to do to verify they really have a job.
Mhm.
But, you know, you're just seeing people that, you know, they're here every day. And shit, 8 years ago, I never thought I'd do much more than be a guy in a truck pumping foam, you know, for years to make a decent living. And now I have employees that essentially I'm trying to feed every day too. And they're buying homes. They're taking care of their families. They're having kids, you know, and so that's probably the most rewarding thing. You know, I talk to people now, and would I like having a private jet? Would I love to be super wealthy and have this massive company? Absolutely. But that's not my drive. You know, I'm not going out to get all this stuff. I'm going out to find out, how can I help more people? How can I have employees that are happy and fulfilled being here? And that's where I win the most.
Yeah. Hey, and I'll second that paperwork. Hey, Dylan, do you remember when you bought your house and I had to fill out that damn paperwork? I'm just
Yeah.
throwing shade. That's all right.
Lord knows you fill it out wrong. They email you back real quick.
Right. Yeah. This is a great prep episode to the lawyer, which is just like, I don't know. I could never be a lawyer for the amount of paperwork that you got to sift through.
Oh,
man,
that's so
You know, I was in my attorney's office all day yesterday for mediation, and just on his desk, the mounds of paperwork. They must own a forest somewhere, a timber
Oh,
company.
gosh.
Man, they're
They
printing
have.
like crazy.
There's the Amazon right there.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I want to kind of transition gears here real quick, Zach. I'm just curious about this. It looks like you guys had a rebrand with Leveled Concrete. How long ago was that?
Right over a year ago, June of last year.
I got to say, the new look is awesome. No offense to the old look, but the old look would have never caught my eye. And just for the listeners, if you want to look up Leveled Concrete, go for it. The old look was like a blue square that just had an LC and a line in it.
Yep.
Just like the most basic. I don't know if you put that on Microsoft Paint or how you created that.
Hey, I did do Adobe Illustrator.
Okay.
I did do that myself. I don't even know if I have a copy of that around here anymore, so I can pull it up. But
Oh, that'd be
you know, I designed that myself on the kitchen table.
Right on.
You know, in 2016, started this business. I was like, this looks cool. This looks
love it.
professional. And I never really thought there was anything wrong with it, you know, until a good guy, Dan Antonelli, he's got a book, Branded, Not Blanded, Branded, Not Blanded. Great book to read. It's not on Audible because there's too many pictures and cool shit to look at in the books. You actually have to read it. You know, just that book alone, I was like 10 pages into it. And they talk about the key thing, like your Under Armour shirt you're wearing there, Will.
Mhm.
Like, I know it's Under Armour because Under Armour spends a lot of damn money to know what that logo means.
Mhm.
But I will never have the money that Under Armour has to get someone to understand what a little LC in a box means. And Nike and Adidas in the same way. So you got to get something that stands out. Then you start looking at the box trucks and the vans we had, and they're blue and white. They blend in with everything. And, I called Dan up and I was like, I need a logo. I need this thing branded. And we signed up, got his whole package. And that whole process took 6 months just to get the design, just to even get started on it. And then another 4 or 5, 6 months to actually launch. So it's a year-long process from when I said I wanted to do it to actually launching. But man, from the day we launched it, organic searches are up. The minute we rebranded our TV commercials, organic searches went up like 5 times month over month. Just outrageous. Branded. The people were searching leveled concrete. We spend more money on Google ads on our keyword than we do every other keyword that people are searching, because our keyword is being searched so damn much now.
Yeah.
It sucks to spend money on your own name, but when everybody else in the market spends money on your name because they want to piggyback off the coat ride, you have to spend it. But, the branding's been awesome. Customers love it. The employees love it. They're proud of it. We named the guy Polly.
Oh,
we couldn't know. I don't know if you ever decided spelling. I don't know if it's P-O-L-Y or P-A-U-L-Y. We don't really know, but his name's Polly.
You don't want to get too close to Polly Shore, right? Like the
Right,
I got to stand it alone.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm glad you asked this question, Dylan, because I think you see this in a lot of Facebook groups, Zach, and other groups that you and I are shared with, that this emulation of this kind of, call it an avatar or a mascot for the company.
Yep.
And by the way, Dan will be on the show here in several weeks, actually, to talk about Kickstart and what they're doing there. And we know the guys at Jolly Goat really well that have done theirs, and they just do it insanely well. So as you navigated that process, I'm sure there was a time when it's like, man, I could probably just do this cheaper. But what would you say to somebody that's like, no, this is not something you don't want to cheap out?
It's worth every dollar you're going to spend. I mean, I don't know if their prices have changed much, but I spent about $25,000 on the core package of everything we got done on there. But just the amount of extra marketing dollars, the less marketing dollars we have to spend, the more results we've got out of it. It's 100% worth it. You can definitely do things cheaper. The downside you get doing things cheaper is you can get a sweet logo made somewhere. It'll look cool. You can get a decent wrap done, but does your business card, does your letterhead, does your envelope for your check match? Our envelopes are branded envelopes. Our letterheads are branded, like I'm working on an employee handbook right now, redoing it, but our employee handbook is branded. I mean, everything's branded. It looks better. And when everything is cohesive and lines up, it makes you look like a Fortune 500 company that you're not, but it's 100% worth it.
Well, I'm glad you did it. I love the character, Polly. I was going to ask you what the name is, and then you teed it up perfect. I love it. That's so cool.
I think one of the girls in the office talked about it.
I mean, it's one of those where now I'm picturing we got to get on Amazon and figure out one of those big mascot outfits, and we'll have Zachary on the next episode. Dressed up as Polly.
I've priced them out. They're about $6,500 to get a custom, because we've looked at it. We have a banner at the Minute Maid Park for the Houston Astros. So we sponsor that. We do some work there. We've talked about with our rep there of seeing if we can make ourselves a mascot and get them out there and do a race with Orbit around the park or whatever. And they're open to the idea. Cool. It's just it's another couple $1,000 you got to spend, and who's going to be the mascot? I mean, I don't really want to be the guy in the mascot, but
get a fast person,
right? I'm not fast.
We're doing tryout.
That mascot's pretty athletic, and I'm not that.
Yeah, but every business owner dreams of getting to the size of being able to tag to a national sporting franchise or something like that. But this is where I think the importance is. Even if you had the money to do it, you could go out there with an LC logo. Or you can go out there with Polly, and the difference will be magnified, right? Yeah. It just speaks volumes to that branding.
Yeah. And piggybacking off of that, so the interesting story about the Astros, I was at a game, and I wear this shirt everywhere. I wear the same, my wife hates it. I wear the same shirt every day. Not the same shirt, the same design of a shirt. Okay. I do wash my clothes.
Thanks for clarifying. We were worried
that. Some people will ask that, but
it is Houston, so we know if that's the case. Man alive, it's got to be stinking in Zach's office.
Right. The pit stains are incredible.
Right. So we have a jingle. And if any of you guys have ever done a jingle on a commercial, I thought it was the cheesiest thing we did about 4 years ago. It works. I'm at a game. I'm actually getting some ice cream at the line, and some guy walks up. He's like, "Hey, man, just want to tell you that damn song stuck in my head, and it'll be in my head all night." And so he saw the T-shirt, and you think that our guys. I've had employees walking in parking lots, and someone will just start singing the song. Or at Home Depot, the person at the counter will start singing the jingle to them while they're standing there buying product, and it's like it's just gotten out so much that people know it now. And you ask customers, "How'd you hear about us?" They're like, "We're not. You're everywhere." Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, because
I mean,
you're getting to a part of that person's psyche, the auditory side of it that most branding doesn't tick to. So that's funny. Anybody cuss you out for this jingle? Like, damn you, USOB, like stop the jingle.
They're not in an angry way, but we get plenty of people who are like, that fucking song stuck in my head all the time, and you're just like, I mean, me too, man. I get like 100%
imagine owning the company and I have to listen to that thing every day.
Yeah. We were filming a new commercial last week and had to listen to it like 10 times over. I'm like, okay, this is annoying.
Oh, that's funny. Well, Zach, this has been a blast. I'm actually glad, Dylan, I didn't see that on the questions, but maybe I missed it, that we segued into that, because a lot of people are curious about these rebranding parts, and Zach, that's just a wealth of knowledge, because you went through it and discussing the kind of the transition of that, the hesitancies. But all right, here's the big one. Everybody knows out there that I'm the patron saint of screwing it up. So, and I like to say, if you're going to screw it up like a Texan. So it's so fitting that you're in Houston and screw it up like a Texan, because they brag about it when they screw up. So what's a mistake you made in your business life that was so bad, at least you could brag about it and help somebody out there?
Man, that's a good one. I'd have to say, I mean, you got to brag about the fact that you hire the wrong people and you keep them on the bus too damn long. Everybody does it. You hire the wrong person, they're here too long, and as soon as you let them go, everybody's like, I told you should have got rid of them. So you didn't tell me anything until I got rid of them. But you can brag about it. It puts you in hard times, but that'd probably be one of the largest mistakes. I mean, there's been issues we've done on jobs that costed us a lot of money, but I mean, I'm not going to brag about that. That sucks, but.
Well, and it's one of those where I still, to this day, 20 years doing this business, still, I mean, man, it's like, why didn't you tell me that person was toxic?
Oh man,
it's like,
it's so frustrating.
You're just trying to be a good human being. We could share some great stories, like the time I accidentally shot foam through a garage floor and then somehow found a crack in the basement wall and sprayed foam inside a high-end wine cellar. But we will save that for another episode. So
there we go.
Wow. Well, we don't have basements, so I don't have to worry about that.
Oh yeah, this was in a previous venture out east. But hey, I appreciate not only your wisdom and your business wisdom, but also your out of box thinking, your operational sense, but also your ability to help people around the country. So on that note, how do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your products now with your consultancy, your company, or this new product, A Better Client, coming down the pipeline? How do they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is Zach@leveledconcrete.com, ZACH, or ZACK, or Zachary. I mean, it all goes to the same inbox. Just Zach@leveledconcrete.com. Shoot me an email. I'm more than willing to give out my cell phone if you email me first. I don't know who all listens here, and I already get enough, what do you call those, crypto people calling me and texting me all the time trying to get me to invest in crypto, so I will limit who I give my phone number out to.
Yeah, that's all right. But also for any of you that are out there on Spray Foam Worldwide, Concrete Lifting Worldwide, Home Service Expert Facebook groups, you are constantly tagging and helping people out there. So if you're part of those Facebook groups, and I'm members, I'm not a moderator and admin for those, but I see you helping people on there, Zach. So you're doing great things. So I know people could get a hold of you there as well. So, well, cool.
Yeah, you can always message me on Facebook, Instagram, one of the things. I'll answer on something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, I hope you guys are handling the summer okay down south. I appreciate you for coming on another episode. Dylan, I screwed it up today. I didn't say, like the young kids, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. So where were you at the whole
every
show?
One of our listeners surely listened to the very end.
I know, right? That's why I've got to hit it at the, damn it. All right. Let's just can the whole episode. We'll start it over.
No, It's great. If they're still listening right now, you still have the opportunity right now. If you have not liked or subscribed, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
As they said, like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
yeah,
There we go.
And then also, more importantly, Zach, thanks to you. Thanks to our sponsors, ShipShape.ai. We really appreciate you guys. And then we look forward to the financial review coming up in October. So you guys have an awesome week. We will see you next week.
Cheers, everybody.
And
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.